Boys and girls, we're back to discuss the forms of a number. Now, the last video you watched just reintroduced you to place value and taught you two new period names, millions and billions. But if we're being honest about it, we don't usually deal with such large numbers as 27 million whatever. We tend to deal with smaller numbers like what you see here. So the number that you see on your screen right here, 93,576, is the standard form of this number, the standard form. That's just writing a number as a number. That's it. That's what that means. Now I am going to use my tools here to label my comma. I only have one, so I'm just going to put a T for thousands. Now, the one that you all don't like, and even I don't like it, is this one right here, word form. This is when we have to write out a number in words. Now, the reality is most of us will never need to write such a large number. The biggest number I think I've ever written on a check, which is when you write a number out long in words, is in the thousands, a $2,000 or $3,000 check. So we still use what we talked about before to help us. So let's look at the beginning of our number right here. What number do we have right here before the comma? That's 93. So our word form starts off with those two words, 93. Then we have to put our comma word, which is the word thousand, and we put a comma. That helps us remember. Some teachers may ask you to circle this comma word, and it's a handy thing to do to help keep you organized. Now we need to read what comes after our comma. So we don't care about this part. We don't care about the 93. We just pretend like it's not even there, and we just read what's here. So we have 576. What was that number? 576. 576. The word form is exactly what we say when we read a number out loud to our friends or to the teacher. And so I don't want you to stress about word form because you're not going to have to write it out longhand. You're just going to have to be able to read it and recognize it when you're doing a test question. And we're going to look at some test questions like that, as we go through. So I don't want you to worry about that. It's just recognizing word form. Now let's talk about this one down here, expanded form. This is my favorite. I love expanded form. I love it. It's just a cool way to write a number. There's a couple of ways to do it though. Okay. And depending on who your teacher was is going to depend on what you learned how to do. So I'm going to do it the first way, one way, and then I'm going to show you what you'll see when you take a test or a quiz. All right. So the first thing you have to do is you have to write your number down. So 93,576. Now I like to start with the biggest digit. And so that's going to be my 9, and I'm going to drop it down, and everything behind it turns into zeros. I'm writing the value of each digit. Remember from the last video, we talked about the value of each digit. Now we're going to do it again. So my next digit is a 3. And so I'm going to switch colors here to help you see. I'm going to drop this 3 down. He goes right here, and he gets 3 zeros because that 3 is in the thousands place. His value is 3,000. Next, we move to the 5. The 5 comes down. He goes right here. He's going to get 2 zeros. He's worth 500 because he's in the hundreds place. Then we go to the 7. He's in the tens place, so he's worth 70. Remember, counting by tens on your fingers, you can count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and you'll end up with 70. And then last but not least is our 6 in the ones place. And I imagine that someone has shown you this, and then you put a little addition sign. And that's how you do expanded form. You just break the numbers up into its values. You stretch it out. And that's how I would encourage you to do it if you're doing it for a problem or something like that in class. But that isn't what it's going to look like on the test. Okay? So what is that going to look like? Okay, so the way you're going to see this now is instead of an up and down addition sentence, you're going to see it all written out, and I'm going to go very slow. So 90,000 plus 3,000 plus 500 plus 70 plus 6. Now, that's how you're supposed to write it. When you do expanded form, it is supposed to be from the largest place value to the smallest. But you know those test makers sure like to be tricky. And so they like to mix it up and scramble up the numbers. So they might put 500 first, and then they might put 6, and then they might put 90,000, and then they might put plus 70, and then they might put plus 3,000. Now, I don't know about you, but that just looks silly, and it is silly. We would never do that, but the test makers like to do that to try and trick you, and we're not going to let them trick you, though, so you're not going to fall for that trick. So just remember, they can scramble it up, but it doesn't really matter. They blend it up, mix it up. Now, why do you need to know expanded form? It's actually very helpful when you're doing some of the skills that we're going to be doing later in the year. And so it is important to be able to make numbers in expanded form. Okay, so the values of the digits. Okay, the values of the digits. Okay, there's another reason you need to know expanded form. We also use expanded form to get us to expanded notation. Now, these two are often confused by kids and even by grown-ups. There's some grown-ups that don't know the difference, and that's okay. We're learning. Everybody learns all the time. Expanded notation is another way of breaking this up. And so it uses the digits and then the place value specifically. Okay? Now, I'm going to again do this two ways. I'm going to do it the correct way first so you don't get confused. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to take 90,000, and I'm going to write down the 9 times, and then I'm going to turn it into that, 10,000. Why? The 9 is in the 10,000s place. I want you to whisper say that while I say it again. Ready? 3, 2, 1. 9 is in the 10,000s place. That's why we put it that way. That's why there's that 9 and the 10,000. Now you might be wondering, what are these weird things that I stuck around the 9 and the 10,000? Those are called parentheses. Parentheses. They are group numbers together. It basically says that 9 and 10,000 are connected together, grouped together in this problem. Okay, don't let that freak you out. That's just how we use that to group it. Now, just like expanded form, we're going to put a plus sign. And you might guess that next we're going to do 3,000. So what did I just say? I said 3, and then I say times 1,000 because I have 3 groups of 1,000. Next, I'm going to do the 500. What did I say? 500. These are multiplication symbols because I'm talking about groups of 100. How many groups of 100 do I have in this number? I have 5 groups of 100. I have 500. Now I've run out of room, so I'm just going to go down here, plus. Now this is where it gets tricky. 70 is going to become 7 times 10 because there's a 7 in the tens place. A 7 in the tens place. Okay? Everybody okay so far? All right. Plus, our last digit is a 6, and it's in the ones place. Now, again, expanded notation should go from the biggest place value to the smallest place value. It should go from the biggest to the smallest, but sometimes they like to be tricky, and so do us teachers. Sometimes we're going to mix up the order. Okay? Sometimes we're going to mix up the order. And so maybe you'll put the 6 times 1 first or whatever. But I'm going to show you a way to get around that, okay? Okay, so I erased all of that I wrote out, and I gave you the same expanded notation, but now it's all mixed up and it's all confusing, and oh my goodness, what are we going to do? First off, we are not going to panic. We're not going to panic. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to remember that we're super smart and we can do this. So I'm going to go along here. I'm going to take my pen as soon as my computer decides to catch up with me. There we go. And I'm going to try to get the yellow. There's the yellow. And I'm going to look at these numbers right here. And I'm looking for the biggest one. And it is this one right here, 10,000. That's the biggest one. So I know that my number is going to have that many digits. It's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits. So I'm going to make 5 blanks. 1, 2, I'm going to put a comma. 1, 2, 3. Since I know that this one is my biggest, I know it goes right there. And then I'm just going to look. Let's see. This is 500. So I have to think of my places. This is the ones place, tens place, hundreds place. There's my thousands, comma, 1 and 10,000. So 500, that 5 goes in the hundreds place. 3 goes in the thousands place. 6 goes in the ones place. Boom. And 7 goes in the tens place. And there I can rewrite my number in standard form, and I don't have to be upset or nervous because it's easy. Now, when you do this, sometimes you might have a gap down here. You might have a blank that's empty. I want you to think in your head, what do you think we would put in an empty spot if we were doing expanded notation to standard form? What digit would we put in the gap, in the blank? Did you say 0? You're right. If you ever end up with a blank space, you would put a 0. Okay? So that's expanded form and expanded notation. Kind of gone over there. I'm going to erase this really quickly. One thing I don't like about making videos for you guys is a lot of wasted time. So a lot of times it may pause suddenly and then something changes. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. Miss Griffith just paused it to make it easier. So now we're going to move. I'm going to show you this slide. This is a quick, just shows you the difference. It shows you the same number, 234 in expanded form versus expanded notation. Okay. So that you might want to put that example down to somewhere in your notes so that you can be ready to go. Okay. So there is a lesson on expanded form, the forms of numbers, and expanded notation. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you've been taking some great notes and writing down questions if you have any.